Member from Hennepin, Representative Wagenius.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is different. My last words on the House floor while I'm sitting in my kitchen. Another time to say the truism. This pandemic has changed everything. So, my smart, hardworking colleagues, why didn't we see this pandemic coming? This thing that has changed everything. Why weren't we prepared? Scientists predicted a pandemic. Researchers sought resources to develop vaccines. Doctors told us how to prepare, and we ignored them all. The big question, why were they ignored, hangs unanswered. But this pattern of ignoring scientists is not a one-off. Just before COVID-19 sent us home, the Environment Committee heard from Dr. Osterholm that it was only a matter of time before the chronic wasting disease jumped from deer to humans. Scientists tell us that the prion that causes CWD lasts in the environment for years and years, way more than 5 years. So when we asked in committee why fencing would only be required for 5 years to isolate an area contaminated with prions, the person in charge said it was because they had a 5-year rule. A rule? No science here. Why? Scientists tell us that our pollinators are in deep trouble. The great outdoors that we cherish, and much of our food supply depends on them. Some Minnesota pollinator species are already presumed to be extinct, including 7 of the 11 prairie butterflies that science looked for and couldn't find. Scientists tell us that the ubiquitous neonicotinoid pesticides are lethal to pollinators and to birds and fish and other creatures. But our state government has strong and impenetrable roadblocks that stop even small efforts to protect pollinators from pesticides. Why aren't we listening to the scientists? Scientists tell us that manufactured chemicals that mimic natural hormones are changing the chemistry in our bodies, making us, particularly children, vulnerable. And in some cases, those hormone disruptors are taking away natural abilities that children should have been born with. But our health department doesn't have drinking water standards for these chemicals found in our drinking water sources. The health department is not protecting our children. Think about TCE. Health does not have an air quality standard for that carcinogen. Why aren't we listening to the scientists? COVID-19 has proved that ignoring science can be deadly and that the economic consequences can be costly beyond anything we could have ever imagined. Just as we are ignoring what science is telling us about chronic wasting disease, the extinction of pollinators, hormone disruptors, and so many other things, we are also ignoring their economic consequences. So why are we ignoring science when it's telling us that some of the decisions we are making, some by default, will have enormous economic consequences? I'm sure each of you have ideas about why we ignore science, but all of us have to acknowledge that big money interests have funded a 30-year campaign to denigrate science because science has been telling the truth about climate change, pesticides out of control, accumulating toxins, and more. The result of that campaign is that too many people now think of science as just another opinion. Now that climate change is becoming obvious, more and more people are no longer buying climate denial. So the big money interests have adopted a new strategy: minimization and slow progress. A new challenge for all of us who want a better world for our children and grandchildren. The smart and hardworking legislators that will be elected in November will be facing problems that no one imagined. Science can help, but it will take a change in your way of doing business so you have an opportunity to hear what scientists say. I wish you the very best in January. Minnesotans are going to need the best and most effective legislature ever. I cannot end without letting you know how grateful I am to my committee administrator, Mike Molzan, and my legislative assistant, Zach Zimmerman. Mike just knows how to do everything and do it quickly. The next committee chair who will have his help will be super lucky. Zach will be leaving us for Berkeley and more degrees that will help him in his work to make the world a better place for all of us. Everything that I've worked on has been made 10 times better by House research. Bob Eloff and Janelle Taylor are just beyond amazing. A special thank you to them. And a huge thanks to my sons, Stuart and Peter, who have taught me much about what science has to say and about current politics and how science and politics are interacting. And thanks too to my husband, whose support has been as solid as a rock. Finally, thanks to the residents of 63B for giving me the privilege of representing you. Now, Lyndon, it's your turn.